According to the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, 20% of divorce cases in the US cite social media and their reasons for why the marriage ended. So, could social media actually be partly to blame for today's high divorce rate? Let's talk about that. I'm Cameron. I'm a licensed therapist, wife, and mother, and this is my channel, Modern Marriage, where I share with you guys all the tips, resources, and insights that I've picked up from working with couples in therapy so that you can start building the marriage you've always wanted. Today, many social scientists and divorce lawyers believe that social media plays a negative role in couples' relationships and that it actually makes them more likely to divorce. And as a marriage therapist, I've definitely seen my fair share of couples who are worse off because of the doom scrolling. And while I doubt that many people would argue that social media has been good for marriages and committed relationships, why exactly is it the case? Is it the apps themselves that are doing something nefarious, or is it the way the couples are using the technology that might be harming their connection? Obviously, two things are true. Number one, most people use social media, especially people under the age of 40. And number two, most marriages last. I know this is kind of controversial in today's world where we're used to hearing that at least 50% of marriages end in divorce, but actually since the early 2000s, the divorce rate has been increasing in the US, which is great. So if obviously social media use is increasing, but divorce rates are decreasing, what is the actual relationship between social media use and divorce rates? It turns out that when you dig into the research a little bit more, there are specific ways that these couples who are getting divorced are using social media in their relationships that is causing so much harm. Based on the studies I've read, as well as my personal and professional experience as a therapist, I think there are four major reasons why so many couples cite social media in their reasons for the marriage ending. Number one is something that we all understand far too well, and that is that comparison is the thief of joy. If you've ever finished a scrolling session through Instagram or Facebook and instantly felt worse about yourself and about your life, you are not alone. The vast majority of people end up feeling worse about their lives, their relationships, where they are in their careers, and all other parts of what's happening in their life after they compare their lives to other people. And the reason for this is very simple. People who post on social media are trying to show the best parts of themselves, or even show things that are really good about their life that might not necessarily even be true. And even though we all know this, we all understand this intellectually, emotionally, it is still very damaging to look at other people's perfectly curated lives and the photos and videos they post online, and then wonder why our lives aren't the same way. This is just a natural tendency for human psychology. We are used to comparing ourselves to others as a metric for how we're doing in our life. Otherwise, how would we know if we had no one to compare ourselves to? If you think that this comparison game that our brains play might be hurting your marriage, the best thing to do is to put the phone down for a little bit and go out and meet real couples in the real world. Interact with people, go on double dates, just spend time with real couples, and chances are you're going to figure out that they have just as many problems or more than you, and a lot of the problems are pretty similar, and their lives look a lot less glamorous. Because our minds are going to play this comparison game whether or not we want it to, at least give yourself a fair comparison so that you're not feeling so awful after looking at all these perfect photos of people's marriages and children and careers on social media. Reason number two for the relationship between social media use and divorce. Cheating emotionally, physically, and financially is so much easier today in the world of social media than it was, say, 30 years ago. And that is because it has become infinitely easier for us to reconnect with people in our past or connect with new people out in the world in order to start emotional and physical infidelity, whether that was started on purpose or not. We just have access to so many more people. And by the time we're emotionally and especially physically invested in someone else outside of our marriage, chances are there has been some financial commitment as well. But even without the physical component, financial infidelity is much more common today online than it ever has been in the past. And so it might not be the case that social media is convincing people to cheat on their spouses in one way or another, but it's certainly making it a lot easier. So if somebody had even a small inclination that they wanted to be unfaithful or that they wanted to look outside their marriage for something that they felt like they were missing, It has just gotten so much simpler, so much easier to do that today. And so a lot more people are taking advantage. Now for the third one. I think this is one of the biggest ones, at least in my personal experience as a therapist and then in my personal life, is that social media distracts us from each other. It can turn what could be really high quality time together into totally distracted, low quality, and frustrating time. And somewhat similarly, it can also serve as a distraction from us dealing with issues in our relationship that we really need to be facing. For anyone who's spent much time on social media, it probably doesn't come as a shock that a lot of therapists think about excessive social media use similar to an addiction, that these apps have really mastered the reward systems of our brain, meaning that they are very good at making us want to continue to use them because they trigger hormone releases in our brains that make us feel good in the moment, even if they make us feel crappy later. And so the more time we spend on the social media platforms, the more time we want to spend on them, the more they become an integral part of our life. And we want to pull our phone out every time we go to the bathroom, or every time we have a coffee break, or every time our spouse stops talking, we immediately want to pull our phones out. And this can really come across to our spouses like we aren't invested in that moment with them. We aren't focused on them and devoting real quality time to them. And I've seen this happen particularly frequently in couples who are facing a lot of conflict. They use social media or TV as a way to escape the conflict and just get a break, when what ends up actually happening is that makes the conflict worse, and it even adds more things for them to be fighting about. And for the fourth reason, there is such a strong relationship between high social media use and poor mental health, especially in girls and women, that it's no wonder that if it's really hurting our mental health to be using these platforms frequently, then that's also going to hurt our marriage. Because it's not a secret that it's very difficult to stay in a marriage if both or even just one spouse is really struggling with their mental health. And that doesn't mean that you should ever get a divorce because your spouse is struggling, or that your spouse should ever leave you because you're struggling. Obviously, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, when we make those vows, we really should mean them. But it is harder to be satisfied in your relationship when you guys have poor mental health. And so if there are things in your life that you think are harming your mental health, social media may be one of them, maybe it's not, but whatever those things are, if you can cut them out, chances are it's going to do really great things for your marriage the more you take care of yourself, and particularly the more you take care of your physical and your mental health. So as I was doing research to make this video, it became really apparent to me that yes, it's possible that couples who are getting divorced or who are having marital conflict are only having that conflict because they're using social media so much. But more often than that, the social media use is actually a sign that there are some larger issues in the relationship that are not just because of Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. It seems that the use of this technology in itself is actually pointing to deeper issues like the desire to cheat, or the desire to escape communication, or just avoid conflict, or even some deeper mental health problems that need to be addressed head on. It's more likely that the use of this technology is pointing to those issues than that the technology use itself is the main problem. So if throughout the course of this video or in other parts of your life, if you've worried that your technology use might be hurting your marriage, this is good news. It means that we can use this technology in a healthy way that is not going to negatively impact our relationships with our spouses. But it does also mean that if you are using it more than you think you should, or if your spouse is using it more than you think your spouse should, then there could be some deeper issues that you guys need to address together. And to figure out if this is the case for you guys, you can start by asking yourself 4 really simple questions. Number 1 is comparing yourself to others, stealing joy from your relationship. Number 2 is going on social media making you more likely to cheat on your spouse. Number 3 is scrolling through your phone distracting you from time with your spouse, or distracting you from addressing bigger issues in your relationship. And number 4 is your social media use hurting your mental health. If you answered yes to any of these questions, chances are you and your spouse might have some stuff to talk about related to technology use, but also just related to the health and longevity of your relationship. And by no means does this mean that you guys are headed towards divorce. It just means that the earlier you can catch issues in your relationship and the faster you can start to address them together, the less likely those issues are to grow into huge problems that become super hard to solve later. And if you did answer yes to any of those questions, it might be helpful to think about how your relationship would look different and better if you guys used your phones less. How much more quality time could you have together? What sort of things could you do together? What sort of things would you want to talk about? How could you get to know each other more deeply and face the issues you guys are going through together as a team, including but not limited to if either of you are struggling with your mental health. After all, as a couples therapist, I am a huge believer that most problems in marriage can be solved with the commitment and the love and compassion of both spouses. Okay, guys, that's all I have for you today. As always, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content about building the marriage of your dreams. And please leave a comment on this video on your experiences with social media use and marriage. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Until next time, I'm Cameron, and this is Modern Marriage.